What is up, everybody, man? Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Coffee and Coaching. Got my man from South Florida joining us. What's up, Mr. Mike? How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How's it going? I'm excited to be on here.
It's good, man. I'm glad you were able to make it. I know we got the call post had a lot of love. Looking forward to folks jumping in with us. So looking forward to diving in with you as well. We were chatting before we went live. Mike hit up the cruise with the family last weekend, and we were just chatting about that overall experience. And man, before we jump in, I would love for you to just give a little bit of background, a little bit of a little bit about yourself, and I know it'll lead into kind of our conversation and a couple bullet points that I know we'll touch on today for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's up, everybody? Mike Collier. My mom named me Michael Collier, if you're looking. So, I'm born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. And came down to Orlando, Florida back in 2004. Started working with the Mouse. Mickey Mouse was my boss. I started working on the Disney college program and worked my way through the company. I ended up being a spokesperson for the company, what's called a Walt Disney World ambassador, so a global spokesperson for the company. I'm a salesperson at heart. I co-owned a furniture store back in college. And so, it's just always just been in my blood. And so after I was held the spokesperson role, that ambassador role, I went over into sales, selling Disney's timeshare, right? Disney Vacation.
Oh boy.
Yes, I'm a former timeshare salesman. I'm the guy that people didn't want to sit next to at the table. But it was Disney timeshare, so it was timeshare with a smile, and I ended up moving up in those ranks and became a top salesperson in that crew. And so got promoted to be able to sell Disney Vacation Club on board the Disney cruise ships. So I started sailing while selling, and it was awesome. Speaking from the stage, speaking to groups of, sometimes 10 or 15 people to, 200, 300 people at a time. And the whole goal was to speak to those folks, for them to do kind of a one-on-one consultation with me, get them, across the table from me, so that I can actually close them at the table and get them on their way. And so did that. And, while I was cruising and all that kind of stuff, I had to decide whether or not I was going to continue to travel and be away from family. My wife had just had my daughter. And so, I had to decide whether it was going to be family or money. So I chose family, and I went into real estate investing. I started flipping homes. I was flipping mobile homes. I was doing hard money lending. I got into wholesaling as well. And that's around the time that I found out about EXP. And my guy, Trent Dunn, up in Atlanta, my best friend since 6th grade, told me, you got to check out EXP, man. And, there's a little bit of hesitation, but he put me on the phone with Jay, and Jay Kinder closed it, knocked it down. And so I decided to join EXP, man. And it's been the best move I've made. Honestly, it's been the best professional move that I've made.
Man, it's just definitely, getting to know you and work with you over the years. But man, I can just tell a lot of, your time at Disney, really has, really ingrained who you've become, right? And I would love for you to kind of unpack what that means for people, right? How the overall Disney experience, and how that has translated into really how you behave, who you've become, and really how you translate that into your business.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so I was at Disney for 12 years in total. So again, I started on the Disney college program thinking that I was going to be down there for just 6 months. It was a 6-month internship. So I left Atlanta. I told my mom I'd be back. My mom's still waiting for me to come home.
Where are you at?
Where you at? When you coming back? You bought a house. I don't think you're coming back. You got married. You got kids. So, but I didn't come here thinking that I was going, I didn't start with Disney thinking that I didn't grow up Disney really. It's a funny story. I was in college in my senior year, and a guy who was in my class told me about the college program and said, man, you would be great. You like fit in with Disney. You should check it out. And I was like, okay. And he said, as a matter of fact, they're doing a presentation, a presentation about it the next day. So you should just come tomorrow to the presentation. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll be there. Maybe I won't. I didn't plan to go. And so the next day I was walking to class and he passed by and was like, hey, you going to that class? And I was like, I got this logistics thing I got to do. I was going to my logistics class. And he's like, oh man, they got, free pizza and soda in there. And I was like, which way is it again?
I'm hungry. Where are we going?
A hungry college student. Of course I'm going to pizza.
They know how to get college kids.
They knew exactly what they were doing.
Food.
And so I went in there. There was a beautiful lady presenting, and I sit down. I talk with I sit way in the back because I was I'm there for the pizza, right, and the soda. And so I'm talking to this guy that's next to me, and I'm like, man, this lady's she's really beautiful. And I made a joke, if this is what they look like at Disney, I'm going to Disney, And he goes, yeah, she is. She's absolutely beautiful. She's great. She's blah, blah, blah. I've been listening to her for a little while now. After a while, I will go ahead and I filled out the slip to be interviewed for the role because it sounded good. I get to the interview and it's the lady that was presenting, and I'm like, oh man, it's the same lady. This is awesome. And she goes, Mike Collier, right? And I said, yeah. She goes, you were sitting in the back, right, of the room? And I'm thinking, oh, this is good.
Uh-huh.
She recognized me. And then she goes, I said, yeah, I was. And she said, yeah, my husband said that you were an amazing person. He was sitting right next to you. And yeah.
Got it.
That's how that started.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, but Disney was an amazing experience for me because, much like EXP and really, Honey Badger Nation, man, like it's more about the culture than it is anything else. Disney has a culture that's ingrained in it. And there's an expectation for people who approach it, right? The people who approach Disney expect excellence. They expect communication. They expect to be treated well. They expect to have fun. They expect to be able to be a kid again. You get CEOs who take their granddaughters and they got, the CEO who is always suited up in a 3-piece suit, with the Ferragamos on and all that kind of stuff, is there in some sneaks and a Mickey hat, Mickey ears and riding, it's a small world. Like it changes people. It allows them to just dream and be a kid again. So that's one side of it. That's the kind of the front facing side of it. Behind the scenes though, behind the magic, if you will, it is very systematic, right? Even though it's a huge behemoth of a company, there's so many different layers, and every single role matters. There's so many divisions. It's just amazing to see the level of leadership and the expectation that leadership has to continue to deliver this excellent guest service. And, for it to be so business in the background, but to be so fun on the front facing side of it, that's hard to duplicate. I mean, it's the reason why Disney, there's so many books on doing it the Disney way, right?
What was your, when, kind of walking into that environment, what was the biggest thing that like you didn't expect? Right. What was the biggest, I never would have thought about that. I never would have expected coming to work at Disney and that would have been the case.
I think I just thought it was all, pixie dust and fun. You're going to work there and all, and you kind of show up when you want to. And I was coming straight out of college, man. It was, know. The biggest aha was a couple things. One was the structure, how structured it was. But the other thing was how long people stayed, the retention that they have from their employees, from the cast members, man. I was meeting people who had been with the company for 20, 30, 40 plus years. There were some people who had started at Disneyland when Disneyland in California started, and then they moved to the East Coast to help Walt Disney World open in 1971, and they were still there.
What's the magic what's the retention magic?
You know, the way that they do it is the formula, if you will, is happy cast creates happy guests, which creates business results. Mm-hmm. And so they know if they can keep the people happy, then as long as one of the things that people used to ask is, because after the college program, I got promoted to being a concierge manager at one of the top deluxe resorts at Walt Disney World. And so people used to come in and say, do they pay you guys to smile like this? Like, everybody has a smile on their face. What kind of Kool-Aid are you guys drinking back then?
Right.
And it was really true, man. Like, Disney has a way of making people feel special, feel loved, and feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And there's a lot of cast members who've been working there 20, 30, 40 plus years. They truly feel like this is part of their calling. This is what they're here to do, is create magic for people. When you start thinking about, Disney isn't the cheapest vacation you can take. There are families who literally save years. They don't go on vacation. They save for years, 5, 10 years, saving up when their daughter is 6, so that when she turns 16, they go and do, this big party at Disney, the whole thing. And so when you start thinking about how much stock people put into, wanting to experience that, and you being able to be a part of that experience, man, there's a different kind of weight that gets put on it. So it's heavy, but it's light at the same time. Yeah.
I remember reading, I think one of the culture books that we read and we handed out to everybody was Inside the Magic Kingdom, and just the details that go into every day at Disney, like the repainting of everything, just everything, right? Because there's it's just like you said, right? People save for years to be able to create and have that experience, and they want to over deliver it. And I remember Jay's wife, Amber, her brother, he's in the IT space, but he was on the project that did the bands, right? When you go to Disney, the Magic Band. So he was on that project that designed and built those bands. And he was telling us, and the first experience that we had with that type of technology was at a Coldplay concert here in Dallas. We went to a Coldplay concert, and it was the very first time, right? You walk in, they put those bands, but then during the concert, they would light up, right, based to the music. So the whole experience inside of the arena was lit from that. And that was the first time any of us had ever experienced it. And it was unbelievable. But little things like that, right, just add to the overall experience. Like, I'll never forget that. I've been to 3 Coldplay concerts. That one is the one that I always talk about, that I never will forget, because it was the little things like that changed the whole experience.
Dude, let me tell you, there was a year where I went and I stood on the balcony. A buddy of mine had gotten this, what's called the Grand Villa at Disney's Contemporary Resort. And one of the Grand Villas, one of the beautiful things about it is that the balcony faces the Magic Kingdom, right? And so, but this was for New Year's. And so we're watching the New Year's Eve fireworks, right? And the most amazing experience, one is, if you've ever been to Magic Kingdom or Disneyland, the fireworks, you look at the castle and the fireworks go off behind the castle. Great. That's amazing. But when you go for special events like New Year's or the Halloween, special, the fireworks not only go off behind the castle, but they go off on 360 degrees around you. So they're going off behind the buildings all the way around the courtyard that you're standing in. It is to the music. It's choreographed. It's beyond. So we're standing on the balcony watching the Magic Kingdom fireworks. And when it got to the countdown of 5, 4, 3. The fireworks were exploding into numbers.
Mm.
5, 4, 3. Dude. Right?
Every
Like
detail.
this.
Every detail of the experience. And I think, that's a huge lesson, because we talk about on the business side of things here within real estate, it's not about the transactions, it's about lifetime value.
Yeah.
And it's the experience they have with you the moment they interact with your organization from now on. And you designing that experience are responsible for every step of the way. And you're responsible for, how they interact with the lender, the inspector, whatever side, whatever they're on, and then beyond, right? Through closing, your team. And but I think Mike, it takes being able to be in an environment and experience something like that to truly, okay, how can, because we know, right, if you only focus on growth with inside of the industry, you're going to have incremental gains, meaning
Right.
you're only going to be able to grow by ones and twos. You may be able to get to a point. But when you can look outside of the industry into that experience that you just shared at Disney, and you apply it into your business, that's how you have exponential gains.
Absolutely.
And so that's just a huge get, right? But because so many agents are so fixated on I got to learn from what's going on in the industry. That's good to kind of pay attention to, but where I want to look at is like, what is Disney doing and what can I take and apply into it? So it's like, and even the most relevant, right? And like, I would love for you to share your experience from past weekend. The cruises are back out. You just went on a Disney cruise, took you and your family.
Yep.
Like, how was that experience after COVID? The ships are back out. Like, what were some experiences that stood out? You're like, oh, I can apply that to my business. So what were some of the things that stood out for you?
No, you are spot on. That's one of the things I like to explain when I'm talking to a new prospective client who, I'm doing a consultation, or if it's a referral that's come through. I always like to tell them that I bring the Disney guest service into the real estate transaction, right? and people who understand Disney get that immediately. I don't need to say anymore. But what I mean by it is all the things that we're talking about, adding a little pixie dust here and there, things, under promising, over delivering. The first time I even heard that was at Disney, under promise, over deliver, right? And so yeah, this weekend we took the family, my wife and I, we took the family out to, took the kids over to the Disney Cruise Line. We got on the Disney Dream, little 3-night, 4-day cruise. And one of the things that really stood out for me, which again, it's not a surprise to me, but it is almost surprising, like every single time, is the communication, the level of communication. We knew exactly what to expect every step of the way before we got to that step. And, and there's a lot, and now in the new environment that we're in, this COVID environment that we're in, there's a lot of steps, right? There's a lot more steps than there were before. Now you got to make sure that people are vaccinated. If they're not vaccinated, if they are vaccinated, they got to upload their vaccination card. If they're not, then they got to know that they're going to take the PCR test. Well, where are you going to get the test from? Do they got to go get tested before they come? Well, what if Disney brings a PCR testing station there to the cruise port? Okay, yeah. So they did that. Okay, cool. So now you have all of these cast members. You pull up. One person, make sure you check your ID. You write the people. Okay, you're going to go to that next cast member right there at that orange cone. You drive up. Boom. Here's the next step. Here's what you're going to do. Blah, blah, blah. And then, the kids got their little swab, and they don't. The good news, they didn't have to touch their brain with the. Yeah, it was just like right there. So it was very easy, very fine. They drove. They told us to drive up, park in that parking space. We parked in that parking space. They said, you're going to know that it's time to go in because you're going to receive an email with the thumbs up saying that it's cruise time. And sure enough, we sat there for maybe 10, maybe 12 minutes. Bing, got the cruise. Yep, good to go. We can get out, start bringing your bags in. But we had already, it's just like every step of the way. We already knew that we were going to be wearing masks inside of the inside of the ship. So you wear your mask inside of the ship as long as you're in the hallways, as long as you're walking through the lobbies, the atrium. you're wearing your mask. But when you sit down at the dinner table, you can take it off, once you sit down to eat. If you go out on the deck or if you go out to the island, you can take it off, right? It's fine. But we knew and expected that. But because they knew that people had reservation about that, one of the things that they kept on saying was, and don't feel the need to take those masks off, folks. We can see the smile in your eyes. So just keep on smiling behind those masks and take all the pictures you want to take. And it was like, yeah, right? People want to go, right? But what does that look like when those pictures start hitting social media that all these people were taking their masks off, right? And you get like 30 people standing in a group hanging off of, the weird earring that people wear with the mask hanging off of it, right? That stuff. So I look at that and go in real estate, it made me reflect on my business and like, man, how can I be better and do a better job of preparing people for what's going to come next and then delivering on that promise on how I said it's going to be. And then even in the midst of, right now we have a lot of buyer fatigue going on, right? Yep. And so I think a lot of agents are doing a disservice to their buyers. They're just like scooping up these buyers and taking them out to go see homes, and sending them a whole bunch of properties without truly helping them to get their mind set before they even begin shopping. Helping them to understand that obviously, homes aren't going to be on the market for very long in this market, right? Especially in this price point that you're looking at. So once we see it, I just need a commitment from you that we're going to go after it, because who knows when that's going to pop back up. And I also want you to know that some of the ones that we go after, we may not necessarily get. But one of the things I tell my folks now, I say, but here's the thing. I'm full of fight. So I'm going to keep on fighting for you. I'm not going to give up on you as long as you promise that you're not going to give up on me. So that does two things. It sets their mind that this ain't going to necessarily be easy. If it is easy and we get the first one that we made an offer on, great, right? They love it. It's like, oh man, I was expecting something more. If it's heavier than they expected, then I already explained to them that was going to be the case. But it also does something that I think where a lot of agents are getting burned with that buyer fatigue. They think it's the agent. And so they're leaving that agent. They're going to another agent to experience the exact same thing. Yeah. Right. But if I say, hey, listen, I'm not going to give up on you as long as you don't give up on me. As long as you promise that you're not going to give up on me. We're in this thing together. You guys agree with that? Yes, we agree. We're ready to fight. All right, let's go.
I love that. And I think it comes back down to and just kind of thinking through and anticipating people's thoughts, anticipating people's actions, anticipating, what they're going to need. I thought of, thinking about this conversation and, your experience and I was on a conversation with Aaron Thomas, who is client of ours he's up in Washington State. And he just got back from a vacation. They went down to Scottsdale. They went to this one of exclusive resort or whatever they went to. And he said he was blown away at their anticipation of what you will need on your stay, meaning they listen, right? They listen for what you're talking about. They're asking questions. Hey, we're thinking about this. And he said it was a Sunday when they checked in. Their card, he hadn't notified his bank. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but the banks are real quick to lock things down quick. And so you got to do your get out ahead of it, notify them, let them know. And so it wasn't going through. So he was kind of embarrassed because this is a high ticket place where he's at. And he said, hey, we're going to just go grab some water or whatever. We're getting kind of hungry. And we'll be back in a few minutes. And so when they come back, the lady that was checking them in, check this out. And this reminds me, because when he was telling me, I was like, man, that sounds like that would be like that's equivalent like of a Disney experience.
Disney level, yeah.
And he said that the lady had taken the time and ordered her favorite pizza place, had it DoorDashed, set it up, got it into their room. They went ahead and allowed them to check in and stay that night knowing that they would have to get it settled up on Monday. But when they got the waters, when they got to the room, the pizza from the best pizza place was already there because she had listened. They were hungry, and she took that initiative to do little things like that. And he said the whole trip was that way. Like we were going on a hike on day 3. They had all of the hiking equipment, snacks, bottles of water delivered to our room. We didn't ask for it. It was just delivered. It was there. It was like, hey, you guys are going on a hike. We know you're going to need these things. We want you to have a great experience, have a great time. Here's some things to look out for. But when you think forward like that for your clients, like what do you think that does from an overall experience and a word of mouth?
Word of mouth. So here's the thing. Here's the truth about my business. And you know this because you're my coach. In my first year, I sold 9 transactions for about 2.8 million. That was 2019. In 2020, last year, I doubled my business, a little more than doubled my business. I did 21 transactions for 7.2 million. This year, the goal is somewhere between 35 to 40 transactions for about 14 million, right? My business has doubled each year, but I haven't been buying leads. It's all through Sphere. It's all through referral. But I got very clear on who my message was who my message was for, right? When I tell people I bring Disney quality guest service into the real estate transaction, people who get Disney, they know it. People who don't understand Disney or don't have that affinity, they're like, okay, Disney's a cool company. I'm more of a Tesla guy myself, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. But there's a few reasons why Disney is, one of the reasons why a lot of people, you ask people, you ever been on a cruise? Yeah. You ever been on a Disney cruise? Even if they have kids, many of them say no. Why? Disney's expensive. But guess what? They're sold out every time the cruise goes out.
That's right.
Why? Because people know exactly what to expect and they're willing to pay for what they expect.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, that was a luxury resort he went to. They were anticipating his needs. Now the word of mouth is beginning to reverberate. He told you the story. You're telling me the story. We're telling them the story. Right?
Yeah.
Now I'm like, well, I want some of that love. So what's the name of that hotel so that I can go and book?
Yeah, that's what I wrote it. I was writing it down. I was like, Aaron, hey man, give me the details on that.
Right?
I want to experience that.
But the thing is, people are willing to pay more for it because of the exceeding of expectations.
Yeah.
And they know who they're marketing to. And those are the people who are willing to pay for what they feel it's worth.
People listening in, man, one of the things that, language is so powerful. And you said something right there, is because that's the typical response. It's so expensive. It's not worth it. That's not true. It's you need to be honest in that I can't afford that right now. Right. Because when you say that, because that experience is an investment, right? And it's not that it's not worth it. It's just be truthful. You just can't afford it right now. And when you're honest with yourself like that, and you're like, man, I really want to experience that for myself and my family. I just can't afford it right now. What's my plan A to B to be able to set that up and accomplish it? Then your mind goes into creative. Now we're thinking of all the ways to make that possible. One of a couple things that I really want to touch on, because, people listening in, you're kind of newer in the business. We're doubling. We're kind of at that point. But one of the things that most people don't know about you is, man, you are a tremendous giver, and a giver of your time. And you pour back into people. You volunteer, different kind of organizations, and so that's important to you, right? Yeah. So we have the business. The business doesn't, the accolades or whatever, but the business is built to allow you, to fulfill and live a life, right? What's important, for your family, important to pour into people, but also from another dynamic. So there's 2 things that I really want to touch on and just kind of unpack. But one was what you did last year during pandemic for the Disney community.
Yeah.
Man, I would love for you to share that story, because people might be thinking, man, Mike, John, I love what you guys are saying, man. I have a giver's heart. I want to give, but I just don't know, like, how should I align? What should I do? Where should I give? And your story is amazing of what you took and what you were able to do.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really valuable to share that story from
Yeah,
last year.
I'd be happy to share that. So again, the bottom line is, and I guess the thread of all of this is start where you are, right? And so, and during the pandemic, Disney had to lay off 28,000 cast members, coast to coast, but obviously most of them being affected were at Walt Disney World. It's their largest single site employer. Actually, Walt Disney World is one of the largest, if not the largest, single site employer for the US, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the one right here in Orlando. So when you hear about 28,000 cast members being laid off, that is a large part of our economy, right? Disney makes up a large part of the Central Florida economy. These are people that I knew, many of them I knew personally from my 12 years of being at Disney. And, it's a lot like, and this isn't to trivialize any other tragedy, but it's a lot like a tragedy that happens in an area or a town or something where when you open up your Facebook or you open up your social media and you're scrolling, and every single post that you see, at that time I was seeing every single, hey, I got the call. I hate to say that I got the call. I've been there for 15 years. I got the call. I've been there for 25 years. Me and my wife got the call today. And that call was, hey, we don't know when you can come back, but as for right now, you're on furlough. And it was tough, man. It was heavy. It was a heavy moment in trying to console all of these people. And I started, whenever something like that happens, whenever tragedy strikes, if you have the heart for it, your heart, the very first thing your heart says is, what can I do? Right? What can I do? I can't employ all these people. I can't give out money, right? But what can I do? And, I have a podcast that I had started simply to create community. In my podcast, I highlight community leaders, small business owners, social media influencers, real estate agents, partner agents, anybody that I feel could just give to the community of people who are listening. And there's no huge audience or anything. But I started thinking like, man, there's a lot of these cast members who have gotten laid off who now they have to figure out how they're going to pay their bills. And so what they've done is many of them had to create take up a hobby, like get a side hustle, right? They had to do something to try to sell on Etsy or whatever. And there was this website or this Facebook page that was created called Ear for You, right? A play off of the Mickey ear, right? And so Ear for You is full of cast members who were in need. Like it was developed out of this need. And I started seeing everybody saying, hey, I'm a former artist with Disney. I've been there for 25 years. I'm the one who drew, the characters for Disney's Hollywood Studios or whatever, right? And I'm selling these, for $25 a piece or $15 a piece. It's like, wait a minute, this is the real stuff. I mean, these are people who did this stuff. People who made the costumes at Disney were now out of work and they were sewing clothes for you. Tell them what you want and they'd create it for your daughter, right?
Wow.
And so I was like, so they were selling this, and then some of them had to turn that side hustle into a business. And so my thought was, what if I could highlight their business? They're small business owners now. And so I created what's called the 12 Days of Christmas online event. And it was a cast member marketplace, online cast member marketplace. And the way it played out was 12 consecutive days through, StreamYard. And I brought on cast members, usually one or two cast members per day, and highlighted their business and had them use their social media sphere to say, hey, I'm going to be highlighted and come watch and all this kind of stuff. So I was able to leverage their sphere, and so people tuned in to watch, and It was just amazing, man. It was an interview format. I was able to interview them because most of them were nervous. They didn't, you know,
yeah, the first time they've ever been on doing this, right?
They got thrust into this thing, right? And so they're like, "Can you help me?" You know, so I kind of held their hand through the interviews, and they just got so much love and outpouring of support from the community who were able. I was able to get sponsors. You know, the church that I was at and one of my lenders, actually, they both put up, you know, money. And so, you know, we raised up quite a bit of money to put this thing together. And it was really cool because there was, I think in all, there were 25 cast members, 25 or 26 cast members that ultimately ended up getting highlighted. And at the end of each episode, I was able to give them, keep in mind, this was Christmas. They got laid off just, you know, this was Christmas. I was able to give them surprise them with a $100 Visa gift card at the end of each show. And, you know, many of them were in tears. They didn't know that it was coming. And it was just a little something that I was able to do to help their Christmas be a little bit brighter. And it was very, you know, oxymoronic, really, because you think about the fact that these are the people who worked tirelessly, hour in, hour out, day in, day out, to bring smiles to the people's faces who were coming to Walt Disney World. And now it was our turn to be able to do that for them.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and so I wasn't doing it for the business results. You know, it was kind of like you said, right? It's just out of an abundance of wanting to give. What can I do? As a result, though, you know, one of the girls who I got a call, and one of the ladies who was affected and was on the show said, "Hey, I always said that once I was in a position to buy a house, I was going to use you, and now I'm called back to Disney. I got promoted. I'm making better money, and I'm ready to buy a house. Can you help me?"
Yeah.
So, you know, we're helping her to find a house now.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. You know, you don't get in and you don't do those things for that. It's just, you know, it's the whole, when you're just focused on adding value and how, you know, you can contribute within, you know, something that aligns to who you are at your core.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's just genuine. That's where it's authentic, right? And that's where the trust is built. And then, you know, it comes full circle. You don't even have to make an ask. It's just 100% give. And so it's so key. Mike, what would you say, you know, somebody's thinking about, hey, you know, I want to align, you know, I have it in my heart to give. What would you say, hey, you need to be thinking about this if you want to do it the right way? What would you recommend to them?
Well, that's a good question. I would say, you know, one is find your passion, man. Like I said, start where you are, right? What do you do? What communities are you a part of? You know, if you're the type of person that just never gets out of the house, it's like that SNL episode. Remember where Keenan was playing Big Papi, and he was like, "There's a new app. It's called Go Outside." Right? Right? You want to meet people? Go outside.
Go
right?
outside.
Like, you know, you got to get out of the house, but most of the people watching, there's something that you're passionate about, whether it's music, whether it's hiking, whether it's traveling, whatever it is. If you don't know enough people who have that same passion, guess what? There's something called meetup.com. Join a meetup group, go meet some people and start building community. And that's really what it comes back down to. It comes back down to community. Where is your community? Community is not a number of buildings in the neighborhood that you live in. It could be that, but the community are the people that live within it. You know, one of Walt Disney's famous quotes is, and I butcher the quote, but it talks about, you know, a business is not a business without the people that are in it, right? And so your community is not a community without the people that are in it. So find those people, whatever that passion is, and then find out who you want to help and how you want to help them. That one of my mentors, that's the one thing he said, you know, we were all put on earth. We were born into this earth with a purpose in mind, right? I believe that God has a purpose for each of our lives. And whether you know what that purpose is or not, it's ringing inside of you. If you're just still for long enough to hear it and to listen to it, you'll find out what that is, but it's ringing inside of you every single day, calling out to you saying, hey, pay attention. And so the two questions that you have to ask yourself is, who do I want to help and how do I want to help them? And if you can figure that part out, then you've actually found your purpose. You found your people, you found your community, and you're able to start creating this beautiful thing that, again, business results end up being a latent effect of the community that you've created. I'm creating now a Facebook group. I just created a Facebook group for my current clients, my past clients, and my future clients and referrals, but as also my partner vendors and such. And what I was wanting to create is a raving fan club, like we talk about with NAEA, right? Creating that raving fan club. It's easier to do now than ever before, just through simple Facebook group, right? But even more so than just trying to get referrals from it, because at first I called it the Mike Collier Raving Fan Club. Sounded good to me, and then I ran it by somebody. They were like, the community name should probably be more about the community, and who you're speaking to, and people are there because of you. So you don't necessarily need to call it your Raving Fan Club. I'm like, oh, okay. So I came up with a name, Inside the Bubble, right? And so that's my Facebook group. But here's the cool part about it. That speaks to a certain people who want to move to or live within about a 20 to 30 minute radius of Walt Disney World. We call that area Inside the Bubble. Right? And so my message resonates with the people that I'm talking to. And so now those people who are Disney lovers, guess what? People who are Disney fans tend to be nicer people. They tend to smile more. They tend to have more fun at events. They tend to do the word of mouth better than other people, right? They tend to be a little bit more forgiving when things happen the way that they didn't expect it to happen, right? Because we all know it's not perfect, right? Things ain't always sweet, right? But you have a very forgiving, loving, happy group of people. I worked there. I identify with it. I represented the company as an ambassador. So now I'm creating this bubble inside of the bubble. And it just, so the business results will come as a latent effect of it. But that's where it's coming from.
Man, you nailed the niche. And I had Ali on Expert Mentors yesterday. He's amazing. And that's what we talked about. We talked about, niches equal riches. And he's like, man, he said, he believes that there's 3 buckets that we all need to have. We need to have our sphere bucket, right? We need to have our farm bucket, and then we need to have our niche bucket. And he said, hey, I get it. If you're new to an area, you don't have a sphere, you don't have a farm, but you can find a niche. And you nailed the niche, and it's around inside the bubble, right?
It's inside
That's
the bubble.
The niche.
They're 35 to 55 years old. They have a family. They love Disney. They care about the school zones. And my price point falls naturally within that bubble, right? $400,000 to $600,000 homes. That's pretty much what my price point is.
Make a dang good, working inside the bubble, selling real estate, with that point. So I think it's a huge takeaway for everybody listening in, nail the niche. You've got to be extremely educated. Mike has, 12 years of experience of actually being on the other side and really understanding the inner workings and how those people think. Yeah. And then, giving back to those people, great examples. I mean, everything that you shared, every lesson there is just, it's right. It's just right. And, for everybody listening in, the takeaway, when you're looking for that niche, whatever you want it to be, there's certain things that you have to, just go all in on to
That's
be
right.
able to have the greatest amount of impact. So
You
no,
want to
it's
speak, you
fascinating.
want to speak their language, right? You want to speak their language. You want
Oh
to
man.
identify them. You know, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so when people, even if you don't know anybody in your area, you know, become the community champ, like Nick Krim talks about all the time, right? Like, be the person that's out there. At least get to know the business owners in the area. Start interviewing your local businesses and restaurants and stuff like that. Be that community, person. And then, naturally people will start gravitating to what you have to say. Those folks will, those business owners will start referring you business if they see that you're being authentic. But when you're using social, and this is the power of social media, right? On social media, when people are tuned into you and watching what you're doing, they begin to feel like they know you. They
Mm-hmm.
begin to like what they see. They kind of feel like they can trust you because you're that resident expert. And so now you got the know, the like, and the trust. The business results are going to come as a result of it. But if
That's
you're
it.
this inauthentic person, this is the other side of it. And this is where a lot of people say, oh, I don't do social media because a whole bunch of people are just faking on social media, right? The problem with social media is that it lures people into being more or someone that they are not. And so most of your business, especially for newer agents, most of your business is going to come from yours in the initial part of it. It's going to come from your sphere and your referrals and all that kind of stuff, right? Your mom, your sister, your sister's coworker, right? But guess what? If you're portraying this person, this avatar on social media, but the people who know you are watching that, they're going to be like, I don't feel like I know that person, right? Like, who is that? I don't know them. I don't like that version of them. Therefore, I don't trust it. And so now this persona, this avatar has actually created a weight, an anchor on your business, as opposed to that hot air balloon that just begins to soar. And so you hit the nail on the head earlier, man. Authenticity is key.
You get away with this years ago. Alex and I were talking about this last night, right? There's a few characters that are in our space right now that we're seeing through it, right? And I mean, when you understand that principle, right, the authenticity and truth and transparency, you start to sniff out pretty quick when somebody's not being genuine. You're starting to see it, and that's just human behavior, and people are starting to see that. I think 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you could creating that false persona and people would buy into it.
Very
I just
true.
don't know if human behavior is going to allow for that moving forward. I could be wrong, but I don't believe that.
I agree with you. We're coming into, when social media was like the key buzzword, which it's still a big buzzword, but when it was new, and all these new platforms were popping up and all these channels, it was like, okay, cool. But then when you say this all the time, right? Like, differentiate or die. So in the sea of these platforms where everybody's jumping into the water to do the same thing with the same message, how can you rise above the noise? How can you tell the real from the fake? Well, you just stay authentic. If you, and this is especially for newer agents, like if you're watching this and you're going, man, but I don't have the experience. That's okay. Be the new guy. Allow yourself to be the new guy and track your results. Like, go on the journey. One of the things, I coach a lot of new agents too. I've been building my revenue share group, and I'm a coach in the office over the Alliance group, the home team out of Orlando. And one of the things I teach is social media for real estate agents. And I tell them that, a lot of them are waiting until they have a certain number of transactions so they can show this, that, and the other. And I tell them, you're writing your book, right? You're the book of life, the book of your life. Your story is not for you. Your story, you're living your story, this life experience, to be able to share with other people, to impart wisdom into their lives so that their story is a little bit better because of it, right? And so You have to have with every good story, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and the end. There's the ups and there's the downs. Nobody wants to read a one-page book that just said they won.
Yeah.
Right? They did it. Everybody wants a good story. Any good movie has the ups, the downs, and the in-betweens. How did you persevere? What did you go through? Right? That's the things that people always ask the greats. What did you do? This is one of the reasons why I've always loved autobiographies. You know,
yep.
I want to see the whole thing. And so don't skip to the end. Enjoy the process, you know. And if you're looking to turn it up, and I give a lot of kudos to you, man. Like you've helped my mindset a lot. You know, just recently I changed from, you know, kind of that buyer mentality to I got caught slipping in this market. You know, it turned into a seller's market, and I didn't have enough listings, and I'm like, oh, this is a thing. You know, this ain't looking good. This ain't looking good, right? And so, but it was a decision that I made. It was a mindset shift. I decided that I'm going to start doing more listings. I'm going to start sitting down in more living rooms. I'm going to start actually just asking more people who own homes, have they considered selling their home, right? And it worked, right? And I went from it worked, right? Yeah, the one page, it worked, right? So but I went from kind of a 30-70 mix where 30% buyer or 30% sellers to 70% buyers mix on my production side of my business, to making the switch. And now I look at my current numbers, dude, and it's 70-30, 70% listings, 30% buyers. In this market, that's a really good place to be.
Yeah, it really is. And it started with making the decision, right? You had a choice. You know, you could keep doing what you're doing, or you could choose to make a switch, and you chose, because you had an awareness, you chose to make a decision. And that's really where it starts. Create the awareness, know that you have the power to change. You made the choice, and here we are, well on our way.
Yeah.
Well on our way.
You know, ask better questions, you get better results. Right? Just start asking more people more questions. You know, if you could live anywhere in insert city here, where would you live? Right?
Yeah.
Why aren't you there?
Yep.
You know, what's keeping you from going? You start asking those questions, it changes things, man. But yeah, I appreciate that.
It is. Yeah, absolute gold, man. Mike, this has been a great conversation. Definitely was looking forward to it, and I knew it would absolutely deliver. I know we'll do it again in the future. But all of you guys listening in, man, make sure you guys connect with Mike. Make sure you're paying attention to what he's doing on social media. You know, get connected, get to know him. He he volunteers. He's a huge giver. A lot of other organizations that he's a part of, that he's leading from the front. He's just not in the organization, but he's being active and really driving it forward. And it's a choice, right? You can choose to stay and lead, and the choice is yours. So, brother, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for jumping in, adding a ton of value, and it's just a really powerful and great conversation.
Good, man. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to be on Coffee and Coaching with the John
buddy.
Kitchens. You know what I mean? We're going to do it again, man. And I'll see you real soon.
We're going to do it again. You got it, man. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Okay.